All right, thanks, Clint. Well, as promised, we've got another special guest joining us on the show this morning. Newly re-elected Mayor of Tulsa, GT Bynum. Good morning, Mayor Bynum. Thanks for joining us today. Obviously, you had a long night, an early morning, but a huge congratulations goes out to you this morning.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Well, you won 52% of the vote. So how are you feeling right now?
Oh, I feel great. When you consider that we had strong campaigns, a number of strong campaigns in this race, and that you had, in particular, a very strong campaign on the left and a very strong campaign on the right. And the big question was whether or not the center could hold in this divisive environment we're in 2020. And it did. And I'm really grateful to my fellow Tulsans for another 4 years.
Right, so we were seeing 7 candidates this time around. I think back in 2016 there were 5 candidates, and showing that more people are definitely, throwing their hats into the ring. And you just touched on it. Greg Robinson said last night that there is a sense of divisiveness in Tulsa. How do you plan to go about that in this future term?
Well, I've tried throughout my time as mayor to be a mayor for all Tulsans. We run a completely nonpartisan approach, and that's very unique. And I think that was one of the big questions in this race, when you had Greg very much appealing to Democrats in Tulsa. You had Ken Reddick very much appealing to Republicans. Was there room for those of us who want Republicans and Democrats to work together and try and bridge those divides? And again, in an 8-candidate race, to get 52% of the vote in the first round, to have no runoff. In 2020, we're in the midst of a national recession, a global pandemic. I'm just really grateful for the chance to continue this approach that we have of trying to find that common ground between people and not worrying about partisanship or the things that traditionally can divide us, but instead finding ways that we can work together. And when we've done that in the last 4 years, we've had great success. And I think that points towards great momentum going forward in the next 4 years as well.
Something we've been saying over and over is this really is an unprecedented race in the middle of a pandemic, something that we've never experienced before. And you were in the middle of all of that, calling the shots here in Tulsa, speaking to Tulsans, helping them get through this, in particular your mask ordinance. I know you had some mixed responses. Do you feel like it impacted your race in any way?
Oh, there's no question that the mask ordinance impacted our race. I mean, you had folks on one side who thought that we waited too long to put it in place, even though we were just following the guidance of the Tulsa Health Department. And then you had folks on the other side who don't feel like we should have one at all. And it is a very divisive issue. I don't necessarily think that it should be, but it has become that way in 2020, not just here in Tulsa, but in cities all around the country. And there's no question that it became a big issue in the campaign. We're going to continue, though, to move forward and to rely on the guidance of local public health experts, both, of course, in our public health standpoint at the Tulsa Health Department, but also the leadership of our hospitals, our doctors and our nurses. And they're the ones that called for that ordinance and said it was necessary. And I'm proud of my colleagues on the city council for having the guts to put it in place when others around the state have not done so.
And through this pandemic, a lot of people have been relying on you all for transparency. And speaking of that, the Public Integrity Center for Public Integrity released documents to the White House about the White House Coronavirus Task Force, suggesting that Oklahoma needed to tighten up on restrictions. Obviously, we saw back on August 16th that the governor said that Dr. Birx came to Tulsa and didn't make any recommendations. However, that new document is saying that, we need a statewide mandate, mask mandate, close bars and some businesses. How accurate, is what I'm asking you, is the governor's claim that Dr. Birx had no suggestions for Oklahoma?
Yeah, so in the meeting that I attended that the governor invited me to, he had a private meeting with Dr. Birx for like 45 minutes before they came in and met with the residents. And in our meeting, Dr. Birx did not make any recommendations, but as far as what she said to the governor in their private meeting, I don't know. One thing that surprised me, though, in the meeting that we did have was when she said that she said tomorrow, this was on a Sunday, tomorrow on Monday, we're going to issue our 8th report to states covering guidance that they should have. And I thought, 8? No, I've heard about 1, thanks to it being leaked, the one that you talked about. And so that was a real cause for concern coming out of that meeting. To his credit, the governor has started now publishing on the state's website all of those reports when they come in. I just got an email late last night from Dr. Dart about the latest one. And we're going to continue to look at their recommendations, but also apply our local data and see what our local public health experts believe is necessary. I know Dr. Dart's been very outspoken in saying that there should be a statewide mask order. I completely agree with him on that. Our hospitals here in Tulsa do not just serve people who live in the city of Tulsa. They serve people that live in this entire part of the state. And there are unnecessarily a whole lot of people in those hospitals right now because there isn't a mask order in the communities where they live.
Well, as you, continue your role as mayor, the city council is about to discuss the controversial mural over on Greenwood. What do you expect to come out of that meeting, the Black Lives Matter mural? It's been a topic of debate for a while now, and as you regain your position, that is something that you're going to be dealing with. So what do you expect?
I've heard a number of my colleagues on the council talk about being able to identify a few key areas around town where it makes sense to have a mural in a limited area of the street that really reflects the history and culture of that area that can be used to help promote that area. Greenwood is one, but I can think of other areas where it might be useful. If they're able, from a legal standpoint, and this is one area where it's up to them, they have the authority on this under our city charter, not the mayor. But if they can find a legal way to do that, to establish a few key areas where messages relevant to the history and culture of that space can be displayed, I think that is a positive solution. If they can't do that, and it becomes a question of turning every street in the city of Tulsa into a billboard where anybody can put any message on it, then I would not support that. And if it's all messages or no messages, I side with no messages. Right. But I'm hopeful that my colleagues on the council, working with our legal department at the city, can find that middle ground on this issue. All
right, thanks for that insight. And thank you so much for being here. A huge congratulations goes out to you. Another 4 years. We certainly appreciate you being here bright and early for us.
Appreciate it.